Hello, friends. This is the Grow Podcast, and I'm Wendy Jo, and I'm here with my friend Ashley. How are you today?
I am fine, Wendy. How are you?
I am doing well. It's a good day. The sun
Yeah,
is shining, and life is pretty good.
for sure. I'm excited today because we're going to be talking about how to let people know how to love yourself. And it's such an interesting topic because it feeds directly into the self-love category again. Because, how can you tell other people how to love you if you don't know how to love yourself for yourself? What do you think about that?
Yeah. So, how to let others know how to love you means that you have to know that.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? And it's a really important thing because I don't think people realize that each individual person has what they equate with being loved. And I
Mhm.
think a lot of it goes back to how our parents treated us.
Mhm.
We're looking for, like I know, for instance, when I cook for my wife, she loves it and she feels loved. And we often eat different foods, so frequently we're just cooking for ourselves because we eat differently. But when I actually just take a moment and think about it, how can we both eat this and do the cooking? I can see it in her. She feels like, oh, she may or may not say it, but I can feel it that she feels loved and cared for. And I think it goes back to that something her mother did for her, that showed her love. So, I say that we really have to know ourselves. And so I know, like in previous relationships, and even in this one, there have been times when I questioned whether I was really being loved. And what it boiled down to is, what are they doing to show that to me,
Yeah,
and how am I receiving that? So
yeah.
I kind of had to assess what my needs are in that area. How about you?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think because so often other people will love us the way that they think they should love us. And many times we don't know that we're being loved on because we don't recognize the love that's being offered to us. So, in the situation, like in a relationship, if I was in a relationship with you, Wendy, and you brought me food, I wouldn't necessarily recognize that that was an act of love, right? Because that's not necessarily how I'm used to being communicated with love or through love, right? But it could be, and we kind of talked about it before the show, the love languages. Like sometimes it is touch, and sometimes it is somebody saying something that just makes me feel pretty or sexy or whatever. And so if that person doesn't give you the love the way that you're familiar with, it's up to us to be able to identify that and to be able to say, hey, you know what? I love that you did this for me, but I was wondering if when you handed me my bowl of soup, you could tell me how sexy I am at the same time, right?
Right. So what you're talking about is communication.
Yes.
And if your partner, or it doesn't even have to be your romantic partner, it comes up a lot in romantic relationships. But, it could be friendships, it could be your children. How are they showing you that they love you? And are you recognizing that that's what it is? Like when my kids take the time to call me, right, because they both live not in the state that I live in, I really feel loved. I'm so happy that they are giving me that time and reaching out on their own without being prompted, right? And like when they were a little bit younger, like my older son, when he was in his early 20s, he was living his life. And I love that about him. He's living his best life and won't call very often. And I would have to send him a text that said, call your mother.
Yeah, yeah,
And I'm so happy that I don't have to do that anymore. He just
Aw.
picks up the phone.
yeah,
So, and to me, that's expressing love.
yeah.
It's showing that he's thinking about me. It could be different for someone else. So, recognizing your needs and communicating them,
Mhm.
so he may not have been ready to make a change. He was still looking for my prompt, call your mother.
Yeah, yeah,
But that was my way of communicating that
yeah.
I needed that.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, no, that's 100% true. And it's so interesting too, like even when you look at it from children, their perspective, like each one of your kids even demonstrate love in a different way as well, which is very interesting to me. One may be more like, I want to sit under you and I want to snuggle with you and I want to hug you. And the other one is waiting for me to hand her $1. But
Right, right. It's true. I mean, so I think it's important as a parent to recognize that. My younger son always brings me a gift, like, whether sometimes it's an occasion, sometimes it isn't. He loves doing that. I love it. I know he's thinking about me and loving me. But each one is going to be different. And I think as a parent, we have to recognize that they are people
Mhm.
and they're going to have their way of expressing, and we can still communicate what we need. And they should communicate what they need. So being open to those conversations, whether it's a partner, child, parent, your own parents too, right?
Yeah, for sure. And so, I know I brought up communication earlier, but I also think boundaries come up for me as well. Because on the flip side, there are behaviors that maybe communicate something the opposite of love, right? Like, and being able to set boundaries with people and letting them know, like, no, I don't accept this behavior
Mhm.
because it does not make me feel good. It does not make me feel loved. And I love you, whomever you are. And I would love it if you would demonstrate that type of love in return. And so sometimes that results in, setting firm boundaries. Have you ever
Mhm.
considered that?
Yeah, I think that that's absolutely true. And once you communicate and set the boundaries and you've talked about it, things don't happen overnight, you know.
Yeah.
So you've expressed your needs, you've set what the boundaries are. Now, some patience might be required to really get to where you want to be, where, you are both feeling loved in whatever this relationship is because you know how to express it for that particular person. So it's not, just universal one size fits all.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Like, and I think that's the biggest point. It's not a one size fits all. Love is love, and it's however we see it. We define it. We, ask for it, and we give it.
Mhm. And we will be right back. Hey there, Wendy Jo with the Grow podcast. Well, I didn't realize till later in life that it was really important to figure out how I need to be loved, what I need to feel loved, and that needs to be communicated to those closest to me, the people I care about the most, the people I have various relationships with. Mostly people are not mind readers. We like to think that, oh, this person, I'm so close to them, they really know me, they should know what I need. But they mostly will not know unless you tell them. So that communication is vital. So take a moment or two, figure out how you need to be loved, and then start to communicate it to those closest to you. Life gets much easier when everyone understands each other more. Hey there, friends. Wendy Jo from the Grow podcast. I am super excited today because I am introducing you to Synergy Skinworks, your trusted source for medicinal cannabis patches. That's right, a transdermal system for cannabis medicine. And it doesn't matter where you place it on your body because the medicine goes where the blood flows. It's 97% bioavailable in this form, and the patch won't move if you sweat or get it wet. They are available in all 38 dispensaries in Arkansas and also in Oregon and Montana, and I just know they're going to be available all across the country because it is brilliant. As a patient, I find them to be discreet, easy to use, and I can place it and forget about it for 24 hours. As a health professional, I love it that patients can give their lungs a break. If you'd like, you can learn more at synergyskinworks.com. And I've got my patch on. Peace out. And we're back. So we were talking, we think it'd be good to talk a little more about the 5 love languages. There is a book which was introduced by Dr. Gary Chapman in 1992, The 5 Love Languages. Right. I didn't realize it was so long ago.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, quite a while ago. And it's become kind of a popular framework. He believed we each have one primary and one secondary love language for the most part. Of course, there's always differences, but that's what he thought. So let me read them. So the first one is words of affirmation. The second is acts of service. The third is receiving gifts. The fourth is quality time, and the fifth is physical touch. So words of affirmation, acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, physical touch. Yeah. So do you know what your primary and secondary would be?
No, I would like to say it's acts of service, but I think what you were alluding to earlier, I think is true for me. It really is situational and dependent on who it is, like what's going on, what's happening around the circumstance. So I don't know if there's any one primary way to demonstrate love for me. To be honest with you, consistency. Like if it's acts of love, then acts of service, then let it be acts of service. Like, let me just know what we're going to expect here and I'll know how to identify it, like I don't need it to come in any one shape or form. I just need to know that it's happening. Right. I've never read the entire book, but I've gone through like little workshops with people who have kind of talked through it. And I think it was acts of service that usually popped up at the top for me when people would talk about it. But in like a reality based situation, like my husband doesn't always do acts of service. Sometimes, it's touch, and sometimes it's words of affirmation. And really a lot of times it comes in the form that he feels most comfortable with. And I'm okay with that.
Okay. That's an interesting perspective and kind of open, I love that. And it probably causes less heartache for you. And because, you're open to how he is able to show his love. And as long as there's some consistency, that's cool with you. I can feel that because for me, as someone who had a fair amount of trauma early in my life, especially, consistency is so important to me. Mm-hmm. It creates security. And but I do have I need words of affirmation and physical touch. So those two things in a love relationship, I know are really key ingredients for me. Just that reassurance, I want to hear that I'm sexy. Yeah. That I'm looking good. I want to hear that. I want to hear that I did a good job, Mm. And I want her to touch me, hugs, like it doesn't necessarily have to be sexual. Yeah. It's more like, just that contact. Yeah.
Yeah. Like even just a shoulder, hand on the shoulder, holding your hand, things like that. Like I like them all. Like even as you're describing, I'm like, oh yeah, I love that too. I love that too. That's amazing. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's possible that someone could need elements of all 5 things. So I love being surprised with a little gift because it's like, oh, you thought about me? It doesn't have to be anything big. It can be, like, knowing what I like.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So like I don't drink soda, but every so often I really want a diet ginger ale. Like I love it. And so like if you occasionally just think of me and pick one up, I'm like, you thought of me, you love me.
Yes,
You
yes,
know?
yes, yes. And you know what? And I feel like I just feel like it ignites just the something within you just to know that somebody else thought about you,
Mhm.
cared enough to, bring you a ginger ale or cared enough to give you a call on a Friday afternoon. It's
Right.
like, oh, like you didn't have to think about me. And I have so much gratitude for the fact that you did. Even if I don't even want that ginger ale, I'm just happy you thought about me.
Yes, exactly. Um, Even picking up the phone. So nowadays, most people text, right?
Mhm.
When someone actually takes a moment to call,
Yeah.
I feel so honored. Like, it's like, I mean, it's like they really want to set aside some time and actually have a conversation with me.
Yeah.
It, to me, that's a very loving act in today's world,
Yeah.
So I think I do love this book and the idea, and I think um, it stimulates conversation between partners, especially when you read this book. I automatically was like, "Hey, Ange, look at this list of 5 things. What are your? I think I can know, but I don't know. Maybe I don't. What are
Yeah.
your top two? So I think it can be really helpful between people.
Yeah, I agree with that. And and start the conversation of what it is that you need to be able to let people know how to love you. Because a lot of us can be lost in knowing what it is because again we don't know ourselves well enough to know what we want. So if you have a list of 5 things to choose from, it's easier to be like, oh, okay, yeah, you know what, I gravitate more to the gift giving, so bring it on, like
Bring it on. And we'll be right back.
Love is such a funny thing. And I'm sure the first thing you thought of was a significant other or a partner when it comes to love. Usually it's about how you love them, but how do you help other people love you? I think the first step is knowing what you want. Like how they talk about the 5 love languages. Which one are you? In order for you to be loved, you have to know how to love yourself, in my opinion. And to be honest with you, I think that's the ultimate form of self-care. So my question is, how do you love on you?
Hey there, Wendy Jo, co host of the Grow podcast. Also, Wendy Edge, occupational therapist. And I wanted to tell you about my new business where I'm combining the principles of occupational therapy, coaching, and spirituality and wellness, of course. On the website, you'll see that I'm doing Osho Zen card readings, spiritual coaching, spirit paintings, and so much more. So if you want, check it out, edgecoachingandconsulting.com.
Have you heard of the Cannabis Nursing School? It's a place where cannabis nursing, entrepreneurship, and spirituality meet. The Highline Tribe is waiting for you, and it's so easy to find. CannabisNursingSchool.com.
And we're back. We're talking about how to tell others how we need to be loved. And You brought up something really important when we were on the break. We're kind of in a loneliness epidemic and decreased connection since the pandemic. I feel like people are much more disconnected. Never mind talking deeply about what they need, right? They're not even really connecting. So, is it a connecting point to start this kind of conversation with people?
Yeah, because we talked a lot about our romantic relationships and everything. But, what about friends and, cousins and relatives and neighbors and things like that? How, like, I feel like we also need to take the time to recognize that we need connection for ourselves from the people around us, and then we also need to connect with other people, because I mean there's so many people who don't have these type of conversations. They don't say, hey, how you doing, and really mean how you doing. And so having conversations, well, first know what you need
Right?
Right? Like, know what you need. And then when you go off and you connect with other people, you may be a little bit more empathetic to what another person may need in a moment. Golly, like, there could be a neighbor that just needs a hug.
Hmm.
Could you imagine just sending a chocolate bar next door, right? Spending $1 on your kid's chocolate and sending it next door to somebody. Like, what a amazing act of love in your community that would be. Um,
Yeah, I remember. So back a couple of months ago, I thought I was doing, I guess, the gift giving part with my wife Angela, and I brought her this. It was around Halloween. I brought her a pumpkin roll. It's cake like with
yeah.
cream. And forgetting that, like a few days prior, she told me she was really trying not to eat sugar.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So really, I did not listen enough, right? And that she did not find that as a loving act because I'm bringing her this thing that she's trying to avoid, right? So I actually felt a little panicky, right? Because I want to listen and remember what she needs or doesn't need. And so I brought it to a neighbor. I just took it and went across the street, and oh my gosh, she was so happy.
Oh, it's so nice.
So think about that, right? So I made an error and I apologized, and I said I was thinking of you, and I forgot that you told me that. Right. So that open communication is important. And then my neighbor, wasn't sure if she would want it either at that point, right? But it made her feel really happy. Like I thought of her, I had this cake that I didn't know what to do with, and I thought of her.
Yeah. Yeah.
So everyone's needs are different, and it's important to listen and understand, seek understanding with all our relationships. Reach out because we're in this loneliness time. Try to remember what your friend needs, what they're like, or ask them,
Yeah.
hey, we haven't connected in a while. Is there anything you need, or would you have time for a conversation?
Yes.
And it can really change everything.
It really could. It really could. I mean, just spark an idea. Yeah, I think the power of connecting with people in our environment, it just goes way overlooked. Like restaurant staff, grocery stores, just bumping into people in the mall and just having a good old laugh or a conversation or a chuckle about, something silly. I think really does go a long way, but we just don't do that in our society anymore like we used to.
We've
Like,
lost
kids
that.
don't even go outside to play anymore, and it's like, golly, like if we could find more opportunities to connect, would there be more opportunities for us to identify love?
Hmm. And remember how we each need to be loved for each individuals. You're absolutely right. The connection part is missing. So figuring out how to get that back into your life, we need that human connection. And really considering what your friend needs, what you need,
Mhm.
being open about it. Maybe we can curb some of this loneliness that's going on and really love each other.
Yeah, for sure. This was a great episode, Wendy. Thanks again.
Yes, agreed. Well, this has been the Grow Podcast. I'm Wendy Jo.
And this is Ashley.
Have a great week, everyone.
Bye.